class education for D38 students is one of the pillars of our strategic plan. And I say our, for those of you who might not know who I am Julie Steffen. I'm with the Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce, and we are a partner with D38 and have been for years. But I worked with D38 for almost 20 years. So I am going to say our because I believe strongly in what we and education is a group effort from the whole community. So thank y'all for being here, but that is who I am. But this world-class education that D38 provides is a partnership. And since we met in the spring, some cool things have happened. And when I was preparing for this meeting, I went to the strategic plan webpage, and under the world-class education, Mark has put different stories. And I just kind of caught up at what has even happened since we last met. And the Air and Space Force Association recognized one of our science teachers at Bear Creek Elementary, Val DeLello. Mm-hmm. She got Teacher of the Year, STEM recognition for our district, our elementary schools, by the Air and Space Force Association. And I just think that's an incredible honor. And for those of you, our business partners in the room, the strength of these quality teachers with you industry experts, what a winning combination we really are providing for our kids. So thank you. And if we go to the next slide, we can see some of these industry experts and the strong partnerships we are forging and forming and solidifying here. So thank you for being here today. We are going to get a few things done. We're going to spend just a few minutes till almost 8 o'clock, and then you guys are going to break out and get into some of the nitty-gritty of what you are here to do. But just to kind of prepare us for this next few steps, Jessica's going to give us some updates and some announcements, and we're going to do this really fun listening session exercise, but she'll contextualize that for us also. So,
okay, good morning, everyone. It is so nice to see you. I'm not happy that we're not all in the same physical space, but I have to say, in order for your conversations to be as rich and robust as we'd like them to be, beginning at 8 or maybe a little after, we were talking about our agenda, which you see on the screen, and it might be a little ambitious that we end at 8, but we will do our best. In order for those conversations to really happen, we thought it's best if you're just in the spaces where this instruction is happening and where students are learning. So it is nice to see you, Jess McAllister, Secondary Programs Coordinator, and with that, I get to run CTE programming from the district level. So glad you're here. And as Julie had alluded to earlier, I have some announcements and updates, both regarding CTE programming and then also regarding District 38 as a whole. So we'll go ahead and get started. Oops, wrong screen. I knew I was going to do that. The reason you can see two of me on here is because we've got two computers here. I know it's going to confuse me again. So here is our programming that we have this year for our career and technical education students. And so this has shifted over time just a little bit. We have some celebrations to mention. We have some expansion further into the middle school, which we're really, really excited about. And I can't wait to share some updates with you. So here goes. Specifically in our business and marketing programs that are happening at both high schools, so Lewis Palmer High School, Palmer Ridge High School. That meeting actually is not happening today simply because there was an illness, but we're still going to shout out at them a little bit. They are deeply investigating an entrepreneurship and small business credential through Certiport. They have a partnership with Rosie's Diner where students are going to be proposing new menu items and having kind of a competition with that. So that partnership is great and it's growing. And once we know what the menu item is, we will most certainly be marketing it to probably this group to go check it out. Rosie's Diner is definitely a staple of Monument and something to behold. We have a new embroidery machine for Moco Apparel. If you all remember, Moco Apparel is a student-run business that is happening over at Palmer Ridge, where last year they were printing t-shirts. Well, now they have an embroidery machine and a hat press. So they're expanding that business operation. And last but not least, over in the business and marketing program, they are really investigating articulation with Pikes Peak State College for college credit for some of their classes. Notice that I said Pikes Peak State College. It's the same as Pikes Peak Community College. They have a new affiliation and they're offering some four-year degree programs. So what used to be Pikes Peak Community College is now Pikes Peak State College. So those are the exciting things that are happening this year with the business program. In biomedical sciences, we're reinvigorating the biomedical innovations class. So we're really excited about some of the opportunities students are going to have when they're in their 4th year of biomedical sciences over at Lewis Palmer High School. That is where we have that program. And they're also investigating the implementation of the BASE program. And BASE stands for Biotechnician Assistant Credentialing Exam. And that's recognized within the state as one of the top certifications. So looking into that currently as we speak. In our construction program, we have a new program over at Palmer Ridge High School. So we're really excited about that. We have Nate Stricker, who is now teaching and leading those efforts. He's working really closely with Andy Rees and the folks at the middle school. So those of you in the engineering room, if you're missing Nate today and you're thinking he's not there, he's just in the construction room now because he's no longer teaching in the engineering pathway. He's now teaching in the construction pathway. So we're really excited about what's to come with that project. And then for digital media and communications, we have at the middle and high school, both of those teachers over there in the middle school right now have started to teach LPTV. There was Daniel Russell, there's Carrie. They are starting to teach LPTV and really bring it to a new level. They are investigating new equipment. We're using Perkins funding to fund some of those projects. And so some of those student-run experiences are really going to be great for that population of students. So we're very excited about that. Last but not least, in our engineering and information technology programming, we have Autodesk Fusion 360 credential that's happening via Certiport. Aaron Reeve-Loba ran it last year as kind of a trial, and he likes it. And so that also is an industry-recognized certification that we're excited to offer our students. We started civil engineering this year at Lewis Palmer High School. We brought in engineering design and development at Palmer Ridge High School. Both of those are through Project Lead the Way. And then we're also offering a scholarship opportunity through Silver Energy Services. So lots of really exciting things happening. I'm always excited this time of year because this is where we talk about what we're planning to do. And when we meet in the spring, we get to talk about how it turned out. So this is fun and there's a lot of anticipation around it. So those are the CTE updates. And then we have some District 38 updates that we'd like to talk about. So one of them is there is a grant called the School Counselor Corps Grant. And it is a grant where school districts can write into it and basically enhance their programming for counselors. What we did last year is we wrote for the grants and we were selected as a recipient of this grant. And basically what that means is that we are going to be able to have one career and college counselor per secondary site. The grant will fund that for 3 years after this initial year, and then that work will continue to support our career and college counseling efforts. This year is a year where we're doing a needs analysis and an environmental scan, so we don't necessarily have all of that in place right now, but this is the year where we get to really hone in on what's needed and develop the job description, if you will, for that college and career counselor that will serve our students to the maximum potential. And as it says here, it's a 3-year duration grant. And then the last is this. You guys, many of you were here when we spoke last year. At this time, we had 2 student interns present a project that we were all working on, and it was called the Portrait of a D38 Graduate. They did a lot of work last year towards grabbing a shared vision. And the end result of this Portrait of a D38 Graduate is really to have something that guides us. We call it kind of like a North Star as far as the decisions that will be made that impact instruction and impact our students moving forward. And so the students last year did a wonderful job. They spoke with constituents of all levels. They spoke to students, elementary, middle, and high. They went to our alumni. They came to our CTE group and asked if anyone would be interested in an interview. We went to Kiwanis, which is an amazing group. And through that, they collected a lot of data. And then they made their first rendition of a portrait of a D38 graduate. And so what we're doing this year is taking that work that they've done, and we are vetting it, and we're running it through just one more time to make sure it's the right work and the right product. And so with that, we're teaming up with an organization called the Colorado Education Initiative. And so if you remember, this was the first rendition that the students had created through the data that they had selected. And you'll see graduates kind of all age groups, I guess, walking towards the world. And you see some different words there highlighted. And then they went to a second rendition of this, and that was this one. So this is where it landed last year. This is where you have seen it if you were here last year. And now this is the work, as I mentioned earlier, that's going to be carried forward into this year. And so I mentioned earlier the Colorado Education Initiative. They are going to be really helping us with this work. And we've already done a couple of listening sessions and started some interviewing with some of our constituents as well. But what we're going to do now is we're going to ask for your input into this a little bit. So I mentioned the term listening session earlier. What's currently happening is the Colorado Education Initiative is hosting several listening sessions. They've held one so far with our elementary community and families, where they were asking some questions and just taking really, really good notes and just collecting data. They also came to the board meeting and they held a listening session with the board. And then simultaneously, as those listening sessions are happening, in the buildings, we're speaking with students and we're asking similar questions, but questions that pertain to students and not necessarily, the questions we would ask community members or family members or even yourselves. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to start collecting some information from you, and Julie will lead that. But before she does, we're going to use an online tool, and it is called Poll Everywhere. And this Poll Everywhere device is really for an opportunity for you to join either by the web or by your cell phone so that you can participate as well. Since we can't hear you and we're not in the room with full discussion, we'd like to collect some responses from you, and then we will open it up for some discussion. So my preferred method is through text message, and you'll see on the right-hand side it says join by text. Pay attention to the fact that the 37607 is what you put in the recipient, like who you're sending the text to. And then the Jessica McAllister 497, don't forget the numbers, that's what goes in the body. So I know that some of the education POCs have printed this as well. So maybe it's floating around your environment so that you can be good and ready for this. But when you are connected to this tool, essentially what you put into a text message is what's going to display on the screen when we're asking you the questions. We have a warm-up, and maybe I'll do the warm-up if you're okay with that.
That's fine.
Just to get us all kind of familiar with this tool. But before I go to the warm-up, and while you're getting connected in this way, a couple things to note. Your response can only be 25 characters. So that's one thing. The next one is we're using the free version. So there are only 40 responses that will be gathered. So just know that if you have a response and you don't see it up there, maybe it was because it was number 41, but we will still hopefully use some discussion to gather what your input was. And then the last thing is if you have a term with multiple words, so if your word is problem solver, you'll want to put an underscore in between the words. So problem underscore solver. So those are the three things. We're going to try it with the first one. Here we go. The first question. Knowing that the baseball season is tying up, coming to a close, as if you've been to a baseball game, you know that baseball players, when they walk out, there's a song that is played for 15 to 30 seconds, and it kind of pumps them up and it gets the crowd going. So if you were a baseball or a softball player, What would be your walkout song? Oh, there's one that went sideways. That's what's kind of fun about this. Everybody wants to rule the world. I like it. Mustang Sally. These are good ones. Amazing. All I do is win. That is so fun. Oh, I love it. Very good. It kind of speaks to me that maybe you've thought of this before. I know every time I go to a baseball game, I sure think of it. So notice that "We Are the Champions" just got large on the screen, and that's because several people have selected that. So "Knocked" was a popular one. "We Are the Champions" was a popular one, and then there are some other good ones up there. Little tidbit, of course, because I'm curious, I had to figure out what the top ones are, and this probably won't surprise you, but the top walkout song is "Thunderstruck." And number 2 is "Enter Sandman" by Metallica. So I've definitely heard those in my time at baseball games. So now I'm going to turn it over to Julie to collect some more information from us, a little bit more relevant, maybe, right? A little bit more pertinent to what we're doing. So
If you'll click. If you had one piece of advice for your high school self, what would it be? Again, you have a 25 character limit. Underscore if you want your words to stay together.
mhm.
I like confident. I like explore.
Aren't these great?
Yeah. Try. That's a good word.
It sure is. Just try.
You are strong. Look towards the future. I mean, it says take the long view.
Mm-hmm.
Work harder on math. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Mentors. Good
Listen.
life advice.
I feel like I could use some of this now.
I can definitely use some of this now.
Give it a shot. You're smarter than you think.
Involvement.
Mm.
Thank y'all. Wow,
Yeah.
it keeps going.
It does. We're
Not
only
be
at 24.
afraid to make a decision. Yeah, there's very little that's really fatal. You can come back and
Mm-hmm.
do more.
Yeah, you can recover.
Try it again. Regroup.
Is there anyone, please feel free to grab the microphone. If you feel like there's some, you want to add some context to one of these, or if you feel, that there's something more you'd like to add, one piece of advice for your high school self, what would it be? We'll just give some wait time because we're in education and that's what we do.
So the "be afraid" was supposed to be "don't be afraid to make decisions."
Be afraid. Be very afraid. Not really.
Don't didn't show.
Oh, I wondered that. When I was playing with this, which was a lot, some words weren't coming up either. But thank you for that clarification. Noted. Not to be afraid.
Yeah.
Not be afraid.
Oh, interesting. Don't need a push talk, thank you. I know, I put explore just to mean try new classes, just try every class you can. That's a big area you can grow in, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes we don't know our hidden treasure or hidden gift until we've actually experienced it a little, or interest, right? Anything else? Okay, they muted.
Okay.
I think we're ready.
Question 2 or 3, if you're counting the first one. What skill set do you wish was present in the people you work with or the people you hire?
This is obviously a question we wouldn't ask students.
Right.
When we do our listening session with them. Mm-hmm.
Teamwork.
Okay.
Yeah. Patience. Diplomacy. Yeah.
Oh, communication got big. pretty important to be able to communicate.
Email writing,
Compromise.
open-minded, task-driven, growth mindset,
Yeah.
teachable,
No, curious and
compassionate. We could use more of that.
probing.
So yeah, we have that twice, just a different form of the word, or it'd be bigger. Grace.
Yeah.
Professionalism.
I see mentor happening about every time. That's important. Teachable.
I like intentional.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, more opportunity for discussion. Anyone feeling brave to get on the microphone? Any other points of clarification? that we missed?
We have a couple of
Gary's got something.
I do not.
We've got one here.
Curious and curiosity, I see, shows up as two separate words, but they're the same characteristic.
Yeah, we were kind of noticing the same thing. Sometimes just, it would have gotten bigger, right? It would have been a bigger size, but yeah, it sure is. Anybody else? Anything surprising?
I think curious is an interesting word in here, the curiosity, but I think it ties in really well to compassion and diplomacy and the grace, because if I'm curious about why you're behaving, why you're responding
Right.
a certain way, I'm other-minded instead of just self-centered.
Right,
And
like
that's part of
empathetic.
that teamwork thing.
Yeah.
So that's a word that surprises me a little, but I love
Right.
where my brain goes with it.
It's connected
thank you.
together. Are we ready for the next one? I think so.
So, what skills do you think are most important for success in our current economy? Think globally, not just here in our community. So, skills for success. This is fun.
It really is. And it's working. I was right at it.
Tangible, not just abstract, the concrete. Compromise. Communication's big again.
Yeah, it is. Adaptability.
Knowing how to learn fast and thinking. I think it's cool that both of those are on there.
Too. It's okay. I know. I need my glasses. Adaptability, listening.
Humor.
Yeah. Humor. Love humor. Anyone want to tell us a little, add some context? Give some space to talk as well?
We were noting here that a lot of those have, like adaptability and flexibility and, learning fast. A lot of them have the, ability to pick up new things quickly. It's a pretty good skill for that.
Yeah, that's true.
Which makes me think, is that something that can be trained? Is that part of the trying or part of the, that it's okay? Because I think somebody who's super deliberate might not be as willing to just jump out and try.
Right.
Because what if they get it wrong and they're perceived
Right.
as not learning quickly?
Right.
But I'd still rather work with somebody who's trying and pushing themselves as opposed to being complacent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. construction a couple times. That's great. Okay. Any last words for this activity? That was our last question, and we certainly appreciate all of this input.
So does this data actually go towards the people who are doing this, their data collection?
Yes. So that was part of the, oh, is someone unmuting and they want to speak?
We got one.
We were talking about, you were talking about can you teach flexibility and adaptability? And we were saying that you can. The challenge is teaching kids that it's okay to fail, making sure that they have a way to recover if they fail, that it's not the end of the world. Try something new. Okay, now you succeeded, and that brings you back up. And I was starting to think, well, how do you do that? That may be in terms of how we grade things and we drop the lowest test. And, I don't know. Allow it up. Like, okay, you missed the deadline. Do it anyway, and we'll give you 90% of your grade, something like that. But, kids are afraid to fail. They're afraid it's going to reflect in their GPA, and that's it. That's their permanent record that follows them everywhere.
In this community.
Especially in this community, where there's a high value on success. Not having the top GPA, not having an A, can be very devastating for kids, and they need to know it's okay.
But sometimes you can't succeed without failure.
Yeah, exactly. And so maybe that can be emphasized in lessons.
That's such a valid point. The ability to fail and fail forward is directly tied to having people around you that are going to extend some grace to you, right? and offer you a hand and pull you back up and help you get back on the right track. Thank you for that, Jackie. That's great. Anyone else? So to answer Julie's question earlier, yes, both the recording and then these slides are going to be sent over to the CEI team, the Colorado Education Initiative, and they are going to use it to then start analyzing and find out the themes that arise from all of the various groups. So mentioning earlier the listening session, the board meeting and the listening session with elementary families and community, what we're hearing from our students. They are collecting and compiling all of that data, and the eventual results, which will be here, I believe they've committed to by December, is going to feed into kind of an infographic, if you will, similar to what the students put together, but a vetted, revised version. And that will become the North Star for our district and how we're thinking when we go to adopt new curriculum, or when we're thinking about a new approach, or when we're, whatever the case might be. That's going to really serve as a guide for us in that regard. Speaking of the listening sessions, we have 2 more. So the next one is for secondary families and community, and that's going to be on October 19th from 5:30 to 6:15. So if you feel like you'd like to do this again, it'll be different. It'll be different questions. It'll be a different facilitator. It won't be Julie and I. I will be there, but I won't be facilitating. But we're going to ask questions that are geared more towards families and community. And then we also have an all staff one. And so staff members in the room, if you'd like to go, we encourage you to do so. This is your real opportunity to contribute to the vision of our district. So not only in those listening sessions and through this are we seeking to create a portrait of a D38 graduate, we're also seeking to create a portrait of a D38 teacher. So if it becomes decidedly so that communication, we saw that everywhere, is a feature for our students, or something that we're striving for our D38 grads, well, then what postures do our educators and teachers and staff members need to have to help them get there? So those are both happening kind of simultaneously, and both we'll be hearing about them, I'm sure, through Julie mentioned earlier, the website and the stories that Mark is promoting, through board sessions, and I'll send it out to this group as well. So just those 2 dates are coming up. And then the last thing I'd like to mention is, I know I said before that our spring CTE advisory session would be in February, but we're now going to push it back to April, just to give us some time to really kind of address some of those goals and ambitions that I shared earlier for this year, and then hopefully report back to you just some great things. I have all the confidence in the world that we will. So that's it for our session. And Julie, it's 8:03. We did. We were wondering how that would go. So here's our contact information if you'd like to reach out to us. Julie as she mentioned earlier, comes from the Tri-Lakes Chamber of Commerce, Economic Development Corps, and Visitor Center. She is the chairperson from industry for this committee. And then me, I am secondary programs coordinator here in Lewis Palmer. And so we kind of co-chair this thing together. So that's our contact information. And down below are some important links if you want to know more about CTE. We have a CTE web presence, and the same is true for work-based learning. And those are the internships and the opportunities students have to learn directly from industry. So that's it for us. We will hang around if you have any questions. If not, have wonderful conversations in your groups. I'm going to try and hop in my car and just come say hi to you in person because I'm feeling a little jealous, to be honest. So I might buzz in for a minute. If you haven't seen me yet, though, don't drag out the meeting if it's already over. Then I'll just catch up with you another day. But I will come and say hi to everybody. That's it from us. But we'll hang out if you have any questions.